everybody, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 71, the only gaming news show on the internet that's not afraid to ruffle feathers and offend people. So, yeah, we're back. This is, I'm Dan, joined by my
Hello, Dan.
bud Anthony. Hello.
Hi, Anthony.
And we're going to talk about stuff and things in gaming and see where this conversation takes us. So, as usual, we'll begin with what we've been playing, and then we will transition over to different stories and topics that we would like to discuss this week, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. So, this week, let's see, what have I been playing? We've done a good amount. Well, we haven't recorded for 2 weeks now, so it'd be a little bit more girthy than usual.
Yeah.
I kind of been doing my rounds a little bit, like Killing Floor, Space Marine. We've been playing a lot of Helldivers lately because it came to Xbox finally, as everyone probably knows by now. Finals got a new season, so we've been playing that. And I think so far this is the best season of the finals, just based off of content. I'm
a little biased in that regard, just because the Destruction did get an update where I've heard everybody kind of comment around me saying like, oh, you look like you're having fun over there, Anthony, because buildings are coming down quicker. But like, that's not even like the part I love about it. I love the interactivity between the destructible objects now. Like, there's a little bit more going on there.
Right. I think we would be remiss if well, I mean, I'm going to speak for myself. You please correct me if you have a different opinion, but I think the finals is the best Destruction has ever been in any game ever. I think it's like the bar when it comes to Destruction in video games now.
I would say that it's definitely the only game in like 2 generations to step up. Like, it feels like there's like kind of a continuity break in developers trying Destruction at whatever scale you want. Like, you had Red Faction Guerrilla, which like kind of blew everybody away. Yeah, and then like nobody really tried after that. At least
Battlefield kind of like took them. Right, Battlefield took the mantle up a little bit with Bad Company 1 and 2, but it was very rigid. I'll say.
Like I don't want to
describe it.
Yeah, I don't want to discredit the endeavors that Battlefield has gone through and the different things, but as far as like games where you look at them and you go like, okay, they tried something new, they really wanted, Destruction to, be like an integral part, and they wanted it to be, in depth and interesting. It does feel like there was kind of a break there between generations where nobody really tried anything. You had people doing things with Destruction, but not really trying to make great strides with it, The only notable game, and they ended up not going through with this, was Crackdown 3. Like that was something because they basically were planning to do what the finals was going to do, which was do cloud-based Destruction. Yep. Yeah, and then it took until the finals to actually do that. Now, say what you will about the scale or some of the hang-ups with the mantling, which I hope they improve next. I want to be able to knock down a building and then run up it, and I feel like you can't really do that, even though they've talked about in developer interviews that that's what they wanted, but baby steps. The whole point is, I do agree with your take as far as right now.
Yeah. So they're calling it smooth destruction just based off of how different objects interact with the environment around them when it's coming down or being destroyed or what have you. And we put a good amount of time into the finals already. I'm sitting at 121 hours right now on Steam. It's my 5th most played game on Steam, which is saying something. Granted, like 120 hours isn't like anything crazy, but it's still a good amount of time to get a handle on a game. And like the way that the Destruction plays out in the finals, it really does shape everything around the entire match at any given moment, and it makes it a lot of fun. And but so yeah, good job, Embark. Keep it up. The new guns are really good. The new Destruction physics are great. They didn't add a map, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. But it's hard for us to really notice because we play Power Shift, and as much I don't want to say I don't want to say they leave it hanging, but they do tends to get like sloppy seconds as far as map-based content goes.
it was built to be a competitive game with the cash out game mode.
Yeah.
We just never really touched it.
I've played it a handful of times. It's fine for what it is.
Yeah, me too. But you need to have a team that really is like of the same mind with the objective. And we play like very chaotic, even though we do roll like at least a minimum 3 people deep out of a team of 5. But it's it's still a ton of fun, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because I'm very confident in saying that the finals is responsible for funding Arc Raiders, and Arc Raiders is going to be a premium paid title, and the finals is free. So I think that Embark has a continued vested interest in developing the finals well into the future. I'm pretty sure they did say like it was from the get-go, like they planned on the finals being at least a 20-year endeavor. So
I could see them really just adding. I do hope, like, you know, it does last a long time, because like I don't really see the point of a finals 2 unless they come swinging.
There's no point.
And the main reason I say that isn't because like, oh, you know, they shouldn't shoot for the moon with this kind of stuff. It's just typically what happens with sequels of games of this like scale, where it's like you have like a couple of niche things you do really well, is you lose something in that translation to a sequel, where like you lose. Like I have a feeling like they do a finals 2, like Destruction's not going to feel the same, the Mantling's not going to feel the same, and you, like I said, you lose something there. So I'd much rather them, you know, do occasional, like, oh, they just upgraded the Destruction with smooth Destruction. Next time they, you know, maybe they make the Mantling a bit smoother. You know, they do massive map sweeping updates. Like they just they updated the Kyoto map to make it like a bit more easier to move around and do shit on. You know, that's cool. I do hope that they kind of refine customization at a certain point. You know, maybe add some better, you know, color palettes or something, instead of needing to buy the same piece of equipment multiple times in different colors. But that's free to play. Who knows what they're going to do with that? But basically, I like the idea of the finals kind of as a platform game, instead of a game that needs a sequel. Yeah.
So we've been doing a lot of the finals. I've been playing a lot of Space Marine 2. The anniversary update launched last week. So we got a new operation, new weapons. Yeah, I love Space Marine 2. As a Warhammer fan, or really like, I'm a Warhammer fan for the lore and for the video games, and I have read 3 Warhammer books. So like it's probably like a pretty safe bet to say like I'm a big Warhammer fan. I just never really touched the tabletop. But yeah, if you're a Warhammer fan and you like the games, you're eating pretty good. So good stuff on the Space Marine front. The big thing that I've been putting a ton of time into this week is Borderlands 4, and I'm not gonna get like too deep with this because it would just take up too much time. But so far, I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm about like, I would say 60% of the way through the main storyline. Yeah. As far as the Borderlands game goes, it's Borderlands. Like if you like the first 3, then you're gonna like Borderlands 4. I will say that the writing is much better. It's not like an insufferable cast of characters this time around. I barely see Claptrap, so that's a plus. And I actually, something that hits me over and over again as I'm playing the game is that my character's voice lines, I chose like the tank guy this game. His name's Amon, Amon. He's the Forge Knight, quote unquote. His writing is actually really funny. He's like you know how in Thor 1 with Chris Hemsworth, like the way that he talks, but like around normal modern day people. Yes. It's like quippy and funny. Like it's very much like that, but it's done well. So
it's almost like the fish out of water, but it's like, you know, this kind of antique of an individual talking with, you know, modern people, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's good. I enjoyed it. So the one of the things I will say about Borderlands 4. So I'm playing on PC. I've been on PC for a while now, but the optimization for this game, it really is like horrendous. It's really bad. Now I have to stop you right there. Randy told me that the game is optimized rather well, and that if you have an antiquated computer, you may as well just refund the game.
So I usually get easily 60 frames or at bare minimum 60, probably closer to 100 on most of the games that I play. That's ranging anywhere from the finals to Cyberpunk to Helldivers. You know, I'm all over the spectrum when it comes to like the different titles that I play.
Yeah.
I struggle to hit 60 ever in Borderlands 4. I'm probably coasting around like 45 and 50 if I'm lucky, depending on like what's going on in the game. Like it's pretty rough. And this is on my laptop. Like I have my laptop is a couple years old at this point. I believe it's running a 3070 laptop GPU. Actually, let me check right now. But I can run every game that I have been playing, no problem.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, it's a 3070 Ti, so like it's not a nothing card. For whatever reason, Borderlands 4 just does not run well at all on PC. On my desktop, I'm at like 80 frames at any given moment, and like I'm fine with that, but I should be at 120. And I know I'm like harping on the frame rate number here a little bit, but I think I feel like it's actually pretty important in this case, just because it's not like Borderlands 4 is like this visually striking game that's going to win awards for the way that it looks. It's not photorealistic. It's not yes, you can recognize it from the drop of a dime, just by looking at its art style, but it was never like gorgeous, you know. Like it's very colorful, very cartoony, but it's not photorealistic, and I feel like it just shouldn't be pulling the amount of resources that it is. So, and on top of all that, and this is really more of like a news thing, quote unquote, but I'm already talking about Borderlands, so I'm just going to bring it up. Did you see the optimization graphs that Gearbox came out with?
I did not see the optimization graphs. All I've heard is reception to the optimization and Randy's asinine comments. That's all I've heard.
Okay, so maybe graph isn't a good word, but it's basically a spreadsheet. And
Okay.
these spreadsheets, dude, they are fucking massive. Like the amount of information on them, it doesn't fit on a computer screen to the point where like you can clearly read what they're trying to convey here. I'm trying to find it right now. I can't believe you haven't seen this.
I haven't seen that, but what I would have to say is just based on the input from Randy and the company so far,
I'm gonna send it to
is
you.
that maybe you just need to buy a bigger monitor to fit the entire thing on one monitor so you can read it.
You ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready for this. Let's see this. Okay, what do we got here? Well, that is most.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait a minute. What is the resolution of this image?
This one is. Well, I just took a screen grab. It's off of a 1080 monitor right now.
Okay, that is a lot of data.
This spreadsheet is solely if you want to play at 1080p. All right, and then the different columns across the top are the different frame rate targets that you want to hit, and it goes anywhere from like 30 to 120, I think, all the way to the right. And it's dude, like apparently they worked with NVIDIA to create this, and
nobody across both companies like raised an eyebrow and said maybe this isn't. I mean, here's the thing: if they're doing the research to like say like, hey, if you have X, Y, or Z card, this is what you're going to need to do. Like, I can kind of appreciate that, but like seeing this chart, which is just like 20 different.
Ridiculous.
20 different columns and like 20 rows each, and then there's a section on the bottom for lower resolutions. It's just like I feel like we lost something here. Like something's missing. Something was missed in translation between the two companies for this to be like the right move, the right play.
Yeah, I looked at this the first time and I was like, what the fuck am I looking at right now? It was so jarring. But apparently that's like their Band-Aid fix for this right now. They did just release a 2 gig patch.
Giving you all the information and hoping you figure it yourself out.
I didn't even bother going through it. Like I've been doing this long enough to know like what's gonna run well on my system and what's not. And I've tried tweaking a few things, but my experience and performance has been the same. I just think the game is basically completely unoptimized, and this is just the product that I have on my laptop at this point in time. Again, my desktop, totally fine. Don't have any problems there. Granted, I could obviously be getting way more performance out of the game if the game was optimized well, but it's not. But it's still a smooth experience, so I'm not as upset about that. But yeah, That's what's going on with Borderlands right now.
Okay.
And again, the game is fun. I am enjoying myself. It's scratching that looter itch, and I'll talk about Destiny and Bungie in a bit. But yeah, Borderlands, it's a good time. If I had to like give it a number score, not taking the performance into account, I would probably give it an 8 right now, just to like, if it's, again, it's Borderlands. If you like Borderlands, you're gonna like this game. If you're lukewarm, like it's the same thing across the board. Whatever you thought of Borderlands 2, and I'm gonna use 2 because that was the best game in the series up until this point, I think. If you enjoyed Borderlands 2, you're going to enjoy Borderlands 4. So that's my elevator review. Anywho, what have you been playing this week, bud?
So I mean, like you mentioned, it has been 2 weeks, so I've had a lot to fit in. I'll start with the small stuff first. I had one day where, like, just occasionally I'll just skim around and say, okay, what do I have on the backlog that I've never touched before, or that just slipped into one of my subscription services, or I got for free in a bundle at some point, and I downloaded a bunch of old games that I've played before, old ones I've never played before, and I just flipped through them. Like, I tried this old shitty game called The Dear God, which is just like, it feels like an endless side scroller, and it never goes anywhere, and I'm just like, and I throw that down. I played Zuma, that puzzle game from the guys that did Peggle before they did Peggle. I've heard of that. Yeah, just killed some time there. I played this older Sega game called Nights into Dreams, which is like this wacky platformer where you're supposed to spin around and do all this kind of stuff. Not platformer, it's like you fly around and you collect power-ups and stuff like that, and you collect coins for points, and I'm like, I never really gave this a fair shot, but I put it back down. I played NHL 94, and then I finally came to rest upon a game called Hoa, which I apparently got for free with Games with Gold at some point, and it's like a short fairy tale. It's like, you remember Braid?
I know the name.
Okay.
I'm
it's fine.
blanking on the actual game.
You don't need to worry about it because it was just a quick comparison. They're not really that much alike, but it's a very short platformer with very light puzzle elements, and it's really just telling you this cutesy little story of, like, the aftermath, this long-term aftermath of, like, robots destroying this forest and the creatures in it, and it's just a cute little thing. It's a whole nothing story, but that's like something I sat down and played through for like 2 hours. I'm like, it's got nice music, cute little art style, whatever. It's like it's the kind of thing you would give to a kid if you wanted to get them into, like, explorative 2D platformers, like a Castlevania or a Metroid, like that you would give them Hoa. It's a cute little game. Other than that, the one thing I did work on, I kind of mentioned it before to you, I got started with The Walking Dead, Telltale Games, The Walking Dead.
Yep.
I did fully go through all of the seasons. I forgot to play the fucking shitty comic tie-in Michonne because it's such a nothing of a game. I don't even know if I'm going to go back and do it because it's like, all of the problems I have with Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, it gets amplified in Michonne because it's got the most cut content, it's got the least control over your choices, it's got the least intrigue. It's just, I don't know if I'm going to go back and play it, but I played through all the ones that matter. Season 1, the little DLC called 400 Days, Season 2, Season 3, the New Frontier, and Season 4, the final season. And all I have to say is, wow, what a waste of potential that was, because and forgive me if I repeat myself, but now that everything's done, I'm just gonna say it again. You have Season 1, which is like a run-of-the-mill adventure game. Could be better, but it's still got nice light exploration and slight puzzle elements, and by halfway through the season it goes full narrative. And then Season 2 comes about, and it's now going full in narrative, but they're trying to add a little bit more action with the QuickTime events, but also it's dipping into the Walking Dead story aspects where, like, everything's grim and it's like, oh, if you try and stay in a group, the group's just gonna fall apart. And then 3 is just a nothing of a season where you play someone different who admittedly, the main character of Season 3 is nice, but everybody around him kind of sucks, and it's very forgettable. And then Season 4 is a fucking mess that just goes against everything that the series like wanted, I guess. from a gameplay perspective, they basically did like The Last of Us, but very light. Like, it's not even like a point and click anymore. Like, there are action scenes where you're sneaking around and killing enemies, but it's very basic, you know? But why I say it's a bunch of wasted potential is because through all the cuts, through all the budgetary issues, through all the, you know, rewrites and everything, it's just a mess of a narrative. Because you have Season 1, which is just like an adventure game being an adventure game in this Walking Dead universe, and it was doing its own thing. Then Season 2 is just miserable, and Season 3 is nothing, and Season 4 is like trying to like go back to its roots. It's like, literally, it's like Season 1 is just a nice little story. Season 2 is like, oh, groups fall apart, everybody dies, this sucks, the end. And then Season 4 is like, well, groups are kind of good, and maybe we should try and live for the future. The narrative, it hates itself. And I hate the fact that I played through it, and what a fucking
and now
waste.
I hate myself.
Yes. If there was ever a game, like we talk about remakes that are unnecessary, remake the Walking Dead from Telltale Games. Don't give it to Telltale Games. Remake that, start from Season 1, and just do something completely different, because most of what's after it is not worth the entry. But maybe worth playing once. I still recommend the first season to anybody who you know, has heard about it. I wouldn't say it's game of the year from that year. I know it won game of the year. It beat fucking Assassin's Creed 3 and Mass Effect 3. I think Far Cry 3 was that year. Definitely not that good. Yeah, but the point is, The Walking Dead is not that good, but it's worth playing at least once. And I don't know. I'm kind of left empty because I don't know. I just want to go play Season 1 again and forget I played the rest. You know, but yeah. Other than that, it's just been my usual gacha games and fighting games. I put a lot of time into Zenless Zone Zero just because now I have like a bunch of content I can do. I don't need to worry about all the weird story hang-ups and awkward pacing. I can just go in and play like a decent kind of action game. So there's that. But other than that, it's what you said before and what I just said, and that's where we're at.
All right, cool.
Yes, but before we get into anything else, this is something that I keep a note on. It just hasn't really come up all that often. I just want to do like a quick like 2 little updates on things that we talked about before that were ongoing. Firstly, the Stop Killing Games movement has given an update on the validation process for the signatures it submitted. And while they have not all been counted and the process hasn't gone forward, so far, there is a staggering validity rate of 97%. So it has basically been confirmed it will be moving on to the next step if it hasn't already. So just a quick little update on that. The signatures have basically gone through at this point. And cool. Yeah, and while on that topic, that one episode where I did a whole breakdown of the Stop Killing Games movement, I did kind of rant a little bit about game preservation, and I brought up an ongoing auction for a bunch of development carts that some collector had. And there are 2 small updates to this. The first one I may have mentioned, so bear with me if I did already. In the second part, I haven't. Shortly after I talked about that, the guy's home was raided by the police. I forget the exact cause they had, but basically Sega, I think, now has all of the all the carts and all that stuff now. And now, the same group that was going to pay like $80,000, or they were looking for $80,000 to buy the carts from the collector, is now raising money for a lawyer to sue Sega to get the carts back. And the funny thing is, the lawyer fees are like no more than $10,000, like an eighth of the price the fucking collector wanted. How ridiculous is that? Like, they will have an easier time paying for legal fees against Sega than paying the collector for the carts in the first place.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but that's those are just 2 little updates on some of the things we had talked about before. Floor is yours, Daniel.
Oh. God. All right, let's see. What's the first? What is something about Saints Row? What was this? Saints Row reboot reportedly started as a direct sequel to Saints Row 3. What the? Why don't I even put? What does it matter?
I think because it was a big story of the now. To kind of give you a little to kind of summarize what happened with that is basically, now that enough time has passed, people who allegedly have inside sources. I I'm always a little skeptical with stories like this because it always sounds like, well, originally we were going to give you the perfect game, but then something else got in the way, and I don't always buy all of it. But basically, the idea is that it was going to be a sequel to Saints Row. I think it was going to be a sequel to Saints Row 4, but the reason that people were reporting that it was going to be a sequel to Saints Row 3 is there was going to be a lot of retcons in order to try and take it back to a grounded thing. Like, I think the ratio they wanted was like 80% Saints Row 2, 20% wacky everything else, which, you know, obviously that sounds appealing. They also mentioned that there was a lot of internal turmoil where people were basically saying, oh, this is offensive, you can't do that, you can't do this. Reports of executives getting in the way of creative decisions, which, you know, there's a dime a dozen for all those kinds of stories. The only thing I'll really say is, like, I don't know how true this is. We're gonna need to see some more information, because, like, it's become a trend at this point where every time there's a massive failure or flop or something, or like a failing of this where it appears that, like, there was either executive meddling or cultural disputes, which we talk about quite frequently, it always seems that, like, a couple months later, a year later, however long later, there's someone has the inside scoop where, like, you were going to get the perfect game, but then this came out instead, and it always feels like there's something iffy about that. I don't know how much I trust it.
Yeah.
If you put more evidence in front of me, I'd be willing to believe it, but this is really just one of those, one guy says he knows a guy, and at the same time, like, there's murmurs that it might be true, but I don't know how much I trust that. It's really just, you know, it is what it is. It is more than likely some of that did happen, but you also got to factor in that a lot of people just in the industry have bought into the shitty cultural Kool-Aid that has ruined everything one way or the other. So I don't know how much I buy that. So we'll see if that goes anywhere in the future. But that's probably why you wrote that down, because it was a pretty big story last week. Because everybody's like, oh my God, imagine if we got another Saints Row 2. I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't know if I believe this guy, you know?
Sure. All right. Well, let's see. One of the bigger things, in my opinion, to happen this last week was the development for the Call of Duty movie. Apparently, I don't think we have any details as far as, like, what game they're going to base it on, if they're going to base it on one of the games, or if it's just going to, like, be a story taking place in the COD universe or whatever. But apparently, Steven Spielberg wanted to direct this movie for Paramount, but his only condition was that he wanted to have complete creative control over the project, and Activision basically told him to kick rocks. Like, they were not interested in that. Now imagine, if you would, for a moment, Anthony, you have one of, if not the largest video game IPs in the history of video games, right? Happens to be a game about war, essentially.
Yes.
And you have a director who directed one of, if not the most well-known, well-regarded, and critically acclaimed war movies of all time, comes to you and says, hey, I want to direct your movie, but I want creative control of it. Like, I'm sorry, what fucking world are we living in where that isn't a good idea?
I think there are a few things that go into a decision like that, aside from executives just wanting more control and just being asinine to begin with. That is such a fumble. I'm honestly surprised that even executives were dumb enough to do that, but it really just goes to show the degree of control they want over it. I think that if Call of Duty had one coherent timeline, and I don't mean timeline like where all the games take place in one, I mean, like, if it just stuck to either modern or World War II or future, and there wasn't all these different sub-series, I actually think that the executives would have been more open to that, and they would have just given it to them. But I think the factor of them not being entirely sure what they want to do with the movie and a potential series spinning from it, they want to have as much control as possible to juggle these potential different eras, would be my guess. But yeah, that is a huge fumble on their part to have, you know, because here's the thing, I'm not a huge movie guy, and I don't think Spielberg is like the perfect, you know, just slapping his name on it, even if he wanted full creative control, makes something perfect. I'm not that guy. But to have somebody of that renown walk up to you and say, I will do it, just give me creative control, and looking at his pedigree, I'm stunned that the executives did not like buy in immediately. There has to be more to that story, or they are really just that dumb.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I also think that like COD is such a gigantic franchise that if you're just gonna give creative control over to one guy, essentially, like I could understand the reservations, but at the same time, it's not just some schmuck off the street. Like, it's fucking Steven Spielberg. He made Saving Private Ryan. You know, like that's essentially half of your games take place in that time period.
He did. He did Band of Brothers too, right? Is that him?
I think he was a producer on that. I think Tom Hanks was a bigger part of Band of Brothers than Spielberg, but I'm pretty sure he had a hand in that as well. But like, by the way, Band of Brothers is one of the greatest TV series ever filmed, but we're not talking about that right now. Yeah, so that's a thing that happened last week, that Steven Spielberg wanted to direct the Call of Duty movie of all video game projects, right?
Yeah.
And they just told him no. Like that's just fucking crazy.
Kick rocks.
Yeah. How much have I talked about Destiny Rising?
You've talked a decent amount about it, but it could also be because I have other people talking to me about it, because I have other jilted Destiny 2 players who are currently on the Rising train talking about how much better it is than the core game.
Well, did I talk about the game after it came out? Like on the show?
Briefly. You can give a brief synopsis again if you want.
Well, no, because we haven't recorded in 2 weeks, so I don't know how. I don't want to repeat myself or
I
just
getcha.
retread
I mean,
all this.
You have spoken about it before. I don't know to what degree, because it all kind of blurs together, because Destiny has been kind of a mainstay on the podcast. Like, it comes up like every other week, every 3 weeks or so.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet then. Okay. I'll try at least. Yeah. Okay, so Destiny Rising came out. If you don't know, that's the mobile version of Destiny that was made by NetEase. To keep it all very condensed and in a nutshell, Destiny Rising does so much better. How do I articulate this? They do a lot of different things a lot better than Destiny 2, to the point where Destiny Rising, if it was ported to PC and console, it would genuinely feel like a Destiny 3. And I do not say that lightly. I haven't played a ton of it because, one, I just can't stand touch controls. I bought a controller clip for my phone to be clipped onto my Xbox controller, and I played that a little bit, but it just wasn't a great experience. Like, there was enough of an input lag that I just didn't want to play it anymore. And I do have BlueStacks on my computer. I could play it on that, but it still feels very mobile-y, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so I haven't put a ton of time into it, but I have fucked around enough to recognize, like, you play Destiny Rising enough, you're going to see the cracks in Destiny 2 even more if you haven't already noticed it. The way that they have handled the onboarding system is miles and miles better than Destiny 2 ever had it. Not even like recently, but ever. On top of that, you know what the mode Gambit is, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone listening doesn't know, Gambit is 2 teams of 4. They have to go out, slay ads, collect motes, bank them, and then the first team to get to a certain amount of motes in the bank fights a boss. Whoever beats the boss wins. That game mode has been fucking dead. D-E-D dead in Destiny 2 for basically years now. And when it first got debuted, it was like all the rage. People absolutely loved it. But Destiny Rising took this formula, and now there's like there's a bunch of teams of 3 all basically doing the same thing, and that works like flawlessly. Like, it just works for the game mode. So they're just, I guess my point is, they're putting Bungie to shame on multiple fronts of the game. And I mean, it is technically a gacha game at the end of the day, so I don't really have the stomach for it that much. But at the same time, it really does show like how far Destiny 2 has fallen. So that that's been a thing that I've been kind of wrestling with. I haven't really been playing it all that much, just because it's a mobile game. I can only do mobile games for so long until I just get completely uninterested in it. And a large part of that is just due to the controls. Like I can deal with the gacha mechanics enough to like play it if I'm having fun with it, but the controls are it's just rough. Especially since it was made for a mobile device. And yeah, I mean, I have BlueStacks, but I've just played so much Destiny, I guess. I'm just taking a very, 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 very big hiatus. So yeah, that's a thing. Going off of the same Destiny train of thought, as if Bungie couldn't be in any more hot water, there was a recent Eververse, not scam, but snafu, I guess you would call it. They basically took an old armor set that was earnable for free in the game. They touched it up a little bit, and they actually made it a lot cooler. Then they put it in the Eververse store. Then they raised the prices, and then people caught on to the fact that it was the same armor set like 3 years ago or something. And this is right in the middle of Bungie and Destiny having the lowest community morale ever in its history. And that's saying a lot, because this community has been through a lot of ups and downs. And this is by and far the worst the community has ever been, to the point where, like, I mean, yeah, they're changing out the CEO. A lot of different creative leads are being changed out. But at the same time, like, they're just making all the wrong fucking decisions. And I don't understand. There's not one guy in the room that's like, I don't know, the optics on this aren't really going to look great. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Nope, they just fucking do it anyway. And the community's on fire. It's just on fire. Like, setting aside all of the core changes to like the fundamental gameplay systems that they changed going into Edge of Fate, which I've talked about ad nauseum, which I'm actually a fan of. I just don't have the energy to keep up with it anymore. People hate it for that reason, but now they're just pulling scumbag moves left and right. And it just, I don't know how much worse it could possibly get. I truly don't. And yeah, like, Sony took control, and that's been a thing for months now. But just the decisions that Bungie as a studio is making for their live game is just bringing them from bad to worse. I don't understand what they're thinking. It's like, it's I don't know. I'm speechless. I really am. Like, I did not think that this game or this company could fall this far. And it's like so obvious to everybody except for the people making the game. I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking about this, because again, I'm going in circles again. But it's been really, really bad. And Destiny Rising just amplified the existing issues, because now everyone's realizing, hey, this mobile game is doing so many different things so much better than the actual game is doing. So I don't know. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. Like, I'm just getting exhausted talking about it.
It's a tiring topic. I get it.
Yeah. So I don't know how much worse they can get, but they got to make a change like really soon. Otherwise, they're just going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
So that is a thing.
Certainly is.
Let's see. So I wrote this thing down. I wrote down Helldivers versus Starship Troopers Extermination. And I wrote it down as like a topic because I had a thought when you and I were playing a lot of Helldivers last week. I went back and I reinstalled Starship Troopers just to like see where that game is at, because it's still very much in development, quote unquote, even though the player numbers on Steam are like, they're in the triple digits. Like, it's very, very low player count, but they're still putting money and time and effort into it. And I wrote down Helldivers versus Starship Troopers because, like, both games are very similar in their premise. Helldivers obviously has executed on it way better than Starship Troopers has. But I feel like both games can exist in the same space, but offering a different flavor of the same thing. I've always been more of a first-person shooter fan.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I think Helldivers is a ton of fun. I love that game, and every update, the game just gets better. Like, I don't know how they're doing it, but they are. Starship Troopers is in first person, has a different like gear system and everything. There's no stratagems and that crazy stuff. It's really more of like a defense game. Like you can build a base, you can make sentry emplacements and whatnot, and build fortifications, and it's actually a really cool system. But I think the performance of the game is less than great, and I don't know what they need to do to like make it more appealing to more people. Like the whole thing with Helldivers, in my opinion, you can call down a devastating airstrike basically any moment and it looks gorgeous. Like that's the whole hook of the game, I feel.
It's a war of attrition constantly, and they give you tools to fight it.
Yeah. Starship Troopers, not really so much. They're kind of coasting off of nostalgia only, and I had this thought of like they could both coexist and offer different takes on the same genre of game and have their own flavor, because one's in first person, one's in third, and I personally like first person better, but the game just like isn't there yet. So I don't know. You've never played Starship Troopers, and now that you've played Helldivers, like I wish that I could bounce this off of you as somebody who's played both, but it was just a thought that I had I wanted to just bring up real quick.
My understanding of Starship Troopers is more in line with like survival game, not in like a very tough, like gritty, like survival game, but like survival, almost Left 4 Dead-ish.
Yeah, it's more horde shootery.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at when I say survival, I mean like a survival mode, like a horde shooter kind of thing.
Yeah. Let's see. I have some more stuff, but if you want to,
I'll throw a few things your way, and then I have like two kind of conjoined rants that I'll probably close out on, but on a kind of, I guess it's not really small, but it's like there was another Nintendo Direct. Did you see or catch any of that? It's fine.
Is this about the lawsuit?
No, there's a Nintendo Direct. I'm not even talking about the lawsuit stuff.
No. I don't really pay attention to the Nintendo stuff.
It was Mario's 40th anniversary, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I was falling asleep during this event. Like I skim these things. I don't watch too much live anymore, just because the industry offerings have been so piss poor. I don't know. It's they're doing a lot of updates to existing games. Like Mario Wonder is getting an update. Donkey Kong Bonanza is getting paid DLC, and people are pissed about that. Yoshi's getting a new, very basic game, but the Yoshi games have been in the shitter for a while. There was no new mainline Mario game, but they did announce that they're doing like a remastered port. $40 each game, $70 for the package, both Galaxy games from the Nintendo Wii, which vastly overpriced, I would say, obviously. But I will say, Galaxy 2, one of the best games ever made. So I guess they might get some money over that. They did a lot of merch. They showed Metroid Prime 4, and people are pissed because there's a desert that looks like I guess the graphics aren't that good, so like people are seething. I have no fucking idea. The game looks fine. They're doing the Virtual Boy virtual console on the Switch now. You need to buy a $100 Virtual Boy case to play this thing, so you essentially need to pay more than the consoles back then to play these older games. I didn't realize that was mandatory at first, so that was kind of strange. They showed off there's another Hyrule Warriors game. I'm just like, why do they just can't let go of Breath of the Wild? And then they announced a new Fire Emblem, and I'll be honest, I was just sitting there the entire time, man. My eyes were rolling over, because you got to understand something about Nintendo. Like, it's got this air about it, and we've talked about it before, where it's like it's kiddie, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. It's got that air about it, but it always kind of defied it for anyone who went to play. It's like you had stellar experiences in the Mario games. You had mature shit in the Fire Emblem games. You had Zelda games, which were like fairy tales.
I used to love Fire Emblem. We played that on the
Game
Boy SP, right?
Yeah. You had the SP model. The crazy thing to me is Fire Emblem was this niche Japanese, like the one that you played on the Game Boy Advance was like the 7th one in the series, because like that was the first one that got localized. And it's just like, I knew so many people like you that like had never heard of it before, but like were immediately like jumped on and played this strategy game that like people I would never expect to play loved the Fire Emblem series. And I mean, I like some of the Fire Emblem games. Fire Emblem Awakening is one of my favorite games of all time. It was the one that was meant to be like the last one, and if it didn't sell well, they were never going to do another Fire Emblem again. But it's just like, I mean, I looked at it and I'm just like, I don't know, it looks samey. It looks like the same as the last 3 looked. And that just goes to my problem and what I was getting at before with Nintendo is they don't have a childish image problem right now, because that's something they'll always be fighting. They'll always be seen as like the Disney of video games, and they are in a lot of ways, but like it has that kind of stigma around it where it's like it's too childish, when in actuality they have some of the best games ever made consistently. But now they're playing it just so safe. It was underwhelming. Like the products looked functionally sound and like theme parkish. I really just don't know how to really describe it. You know, the Zelda formula has like been stagnant for nearly 10 years. Because Breath of the Wild did so well, they don't want to try the older formula again, and they just keep making Breath of the Wild content through sequels and spin-offs. Mario Odyssey came and went, and they haven't done a new 3D Mario, but now the Mario Odyssey guys are doing Donkey Kong, so the Donkey Kong is just like Mario Odyssey, but with destruction, and it has like the same safe HUD and the same graphic style, and Fire Emblem has settled into this like very stereotypical anime image that it's been doing since Fire Emblem hit the Switch, I'd say. So it's been stuck in a rut too. And I'm like, here's the thing. I don't want to say like all these games are inherently bad, because they aren't, but they're stuck in a way that they normally haven't been. So it's just, I don't know. I felt very underwhelmed by their showing. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just kind of came and went. Hopefully they bounce back, but it's kind of like what we were saying about the Switch itself, where I said like, oh, the Switch was a kick the can kind of console, and it feels like their software is settling into that too. Outside of occasionally they'll do something like, oh, Metroid Prime 4, we're going to show that again, even though it got announced like however many years ago, like a decade ago or something like that. But I feel like they're only going to play around with that every once in a while. Like I sometimes I skim the Japanese version of these directs because they show different games, and I'm skimming it and it's like only one thing stood out. Like I was seeing fucking roguelike games in the Japanese version of the direct, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Gotta shape up, Nintendo. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo, like, their image is very, it's geared towards kids. Like you know, you brought up that they have like a kiddie stigma about them.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna stop you right there, because you said it's geared towards kid. Once again, it's family friendly, but yeah,
I was gonna change my phrasing because that was not correct. Yeah. Any person who is as into video games as we are will know that Nintendo is like, they're fucking scumbag. Like especially their legal team. Like the way that they quote unquote safeguard their properties is like just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
What they do legally. And I have no interest in any Nintendo games, but if I did, I probably would not play or spend as much time and money as I otherwise would have, just knowing how Nintendo handles that aspect of their company. And actually, on that note, not to like seriously and drastically shift gears here, but the whole like boycotting thing of games. Now I've played Destiny for a long time, and I've kept up with it through the highs and the lows. And I just want to bring this up briefly. This is not a political podcast by any stretch of the imagination.
Wait.
What?
Save that.
Okay.
Save it.
Yeah, you knew where I was going with that. Okay.
Yes, I know where you're going.
For this episode or a later episode?
It's going to be this episode. It'll be one of the last things we talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, one of the last things that I have then, as far as news goes in my realm, is there was a developer from Machine Games came out and spoke about Wolfenstein. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said that they always imagined the New Age Wolfenstein games as a trilogy, and they still want to make Wolfenstein 3. And when I saw this, I was over the moon, because I recently played through Wolfenstein the New Order and the New Colossus, and I loved them when they first came out, like 10 years ago, whatever it was, probably more. And now that I just replayed them, oh my god, I love those games. Wolfenstein: The New Colossus is awesome. I loved every second of it. And now seeing that they still want to make Wolfenstein 3, like, it just makes me really happy. Like, I really want Machine Games to drop whatever it is that they're doing and start making Wolfenstein 3. They are probably working on it, like, in some capacity, I would think. They just haven't announced anything yet. But I saw that article from Games Radar, and I was elated because I fucking love the Wolfenstein games.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Small thing.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that, because you always got to worry about, like, who's making it really. It says Machine Games on the tin, but who's behind Machine Games? Because, you know, Youngblood was a thing, but that doesn't have anymore.
What a shame.
Plus, I also worry, you know, because regardless of what they do with 3, Youngblood has set a precedent as far as story and timeline stuff. You know, are they going to work around that? Are they going to retcon it? You know, it's messy going back to that series, you know? So
yeah,
we'll see what they
as a fan, I would be totally okay with just forgetting Youngblood ever happened and just picking off where 2 left off.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
You still have BJ Blazkowicz's twin daughters, like they're still a thing in the universe. Like, just forget that Youngblood ever happened. It's fine. No one likes that game anyway. Different companies have done that in the past with other properties. I have the utmost confidence that everyone would be on board with that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So I lied. That wasn't the last thing. The actual last thing that I have.
The surprise.
Is that, well, not really a surprise. I mean, it's more Helldiver stuff, but the CEO of Arrowhead basically said that the grossly unoptimized state of the PC version of Helldivers 2 is officially a priority for them, that they're going to be taking a swing at optimization very, very soon. I don't know when that's going to happen, hopefully rather than later, because it's not as bad as Borderlands, but it's still pretty rough, and it's like 2.5 times the size on PC than it is on console, which is just fucking mind-boggling. So glad to see that's a priority. Anywho, take it away.
All right, so I have 2 small things, and then I'm going to have 2 large things. Firstly, I heard that The Witcher show is getting its 4th season, which I also hear is its final season. Is this true?
Probably for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I thought
I stopped watching The Witcher.
I thought the show wrapped a while ago. Like, I aired my grievances with what I knew about The Witcher, and how, you know, the things going on behind the scenes with Henry Cavill and the writers and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just like, I thought we put this out of its misery a long time ago. I'm sure there will be a handful of people that watch it and go, ooh, action. Not as good as the last one, but boy, what an adaptation. And then they'll promptly forget about it, just like all other video game adaptations. But I was wowed that it's season 4. I thought this was done. I thought the show was over. I thought Henry left, and then they did a season 3 with the replacement, and then it was going to be over. I didn't realize we were still doing this shit.
Yeah, it'll never stop.
Yeah. So that was one small thing, and the other small thing I have to say, Dan, and I thought this was funny. Apparently, Star Citizen Squadron 42 has all but been confirmed to be delayed.
I didn't even put it in the chat because it's not even worth it.
It's like 2 weeks after we talked about, oh my god, we might actually see it soon. And he's talking about he wants it to be as big as Grand Theft Auto and all this kind of stuff.
I saw that too.
Just,
yeah,
we talked about it, man, and it's just like immediately just delay. I'm like, all right, whatever, buddy. Okay, I'm not in your audience. I guess this is just a spectacle that we'll just continue to see year over year over year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Star Citizen will never come out.
You don't know that, Dan. There's gotta be hope. You gotta have some hope. You gotta believe in something. All right.
Yeah, I believe that it's never gonna come out.
Well, we'll see what happens with Star Citizen, but I found that funny. Like, it pops into our news feed and then immediately gets delayed again, right?
Yeah, it's just fucking Star Citizen. It's definitely not vaporware, but it's just so disjointed, and like the teams at Cloud Imperium Games are clearly working on different systems, but are hardly talking to each other. And I don't know. It's just, anyway. Let's go ahead, continue.
Yeah. All right. So with all that out of the way, there's nothing else you have to say because I'll be at this for a while.
I'm just triple checking. Hold on. Bungie greed out of control, but I already went over that. I wanted to talk a little bit about Silksong, just for the overwhelming success that it's been having.
Take it away.
That game came out less than a week ago, or 1 week ago, something like that.
Something like that. Right?
Yeah. So I have never played Hollow Knight, and I tried it recently, and I just kind of put it down. Like, it just wasn't really for me. I don't think I'm gonna. I don't know. But I wanted to bring it up because it's not every day that an indie game comes out after as long as Silksong has been in development and literally crashes every single digital storefront that it was on. Like, I just think that is preposterous. I mean, good for Team Cherry, but wow, like, just wow. Like, even Helldivers didn't have that kind of.
Yeah, it was an explosive thing. I do think a lot of it just has to do with how long it took to came out, because it's not a bad game by any means. I do appreciate that it's a small team passion project, you know, with its hand-drawn visuals and everything like that, and it's a good explorative 2D platformer. I've got no beef with the game. I'm gonna give it a shot at some point in the near future. But it is definitely not like a mainstream game, you know? A lot of this has to do with the fact that, like, an event would come and go, and there would be, like, this hype behind it where it was like, Silksong coming this time? Is it going to be here? Are we getting an announced release date? You know, people tracking store pages, watching it get pushed back. You know, I do think a lot of this was just, like, the wait turned it into, like, I don't want to say a meme, but like the kind of thing where it's just like, you know how people talk about like, oh, Half-Life 3 is going to get announced any day now, right? Yeah. This was like the indie equivalent of that, and I think that helped a lot. And I think at the end of the day, when we look at like completion rates, it's going to have a very low completion rate because it is a difficult game, to my understanding. That's what I hear about it, is it's a difficult 2D side scroll, and that's just not something that really meshes with like the actual sales and, like, you know, bringing down storefronts and everybody talking about it. You know, it's so, I mean, it's good for them. It did so well that it's pissing off everybody else in the industry by being as cheap as it was. So, I mean, you're doing something right, you know? Which, the fucking hubris of some people is like, oh, can you believe Silksong's $20? It's clearly a $40 game. Do you know how difficult that makes it for the rest of us in the industry? Fuck off.
I know.
Just
fuck off.
Fuck off.
But yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to bring up. You may rant to your heart's content. However, just keep the time constraint in mind.
Yeah, we're gonna have enough time, hopefully.
Okay.
Don't worry, we'll keep an eye on it. But anyway, so yes. So speaking of fucking off, there are two last things to talk about. The first one is something that's been building for a while that I just got to get off my chest, and it kind of neatly ties into the second thing. So just couple weeks ago, I saw a post earlier, or not earlier. Like, it's a little messy because of how long it's been, the skip, computer dying, and everything. But I saw a post at some point about the fighting game community, and you know, it may just be some random dude talking on the internet, but the sentiment he was relaying is a common one. It was something like, stop calling the mean online people part of the fighting game community. Go outside. Those are the real fighting game community people. One of the first responses, Dan, I shit you not, was something like, okay, I've gone to my locals and the fighting game community still sucks. To which the original poster, the original guy goes, have you considered that maybe it's a you problem? And that small interaction reminded me that this year's EVO had wrapped up and come and gone already, and that's kind of it's basically Evo came and went. It was at the beginning of August. I figured, I kind of glazed over it. I'll use that as a point to talk about some of the goings on in the community and just do a temperature check on everything, right? So I put off talking about it this long because we had the Battlefield stuff, we had survival horror stuff, we finally sat down and talked about Call of Duty, a handful of new releases we played, with Gears and Helldivers, and honestly, it was just a fucking boring year at EVO. I kept forgetting what was going on. I always say this, like, where I kind of forget it's going on, but this time it was really bad. I forgot it had passed. It was just weak. From overall play to announcements. I'll just speed run what we saw, and then I'll talk about the community stuff. Capcom was there with Street Fighter. Namco was there with Tekken. Both just showed shit we already knew was coming. With Capcom, it's because they do the full year of either the full reveal of their yearly content in the safest and most boring way possible. And Namco, because they scrambled and revealed this character of theirs way too early. Like, it was basically like 3 months in advance. We already knew about this character because the guy they had announced wasn't bringing the hype, and they were in a bad spot. Arc System Works showed up to say that their next character for Strive, a guest character from Cyberpunk, which was leaked and playable months ago, would finally be releasing at some point later in the month, which she did. And with her came a ranked online update. The game did not launch with one, so it did not have a ranked mode, and people were begging for that since the game was revealed 5 years ago, so it finally had that. Whoop-de-doo. And then SNK showed up. They showed a trailer for Ken from Street Fighter, and he launched actually shortly after the trailer in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Real MVP of the show, because Ken was a lot of fun when I played him. They also announced that they'd be pumping a ton of money into a tournament circuit for Art of Fighting 3, which is really surprising, because Art of Fighting 3 came out in 1996. And while I can't guarantee it will last at scale, like where there's a tournament circuit around the globe for these older games, highlighting older games like that one on the world stage is pretty cool. Like I said, Art of Fighting is like kind of like Fatal Fury, like all the old SNK fighters kind of meshed together and became King of Fighters, because it's not really tenable to juggle all these, and Art of Fighting hasn't really gotten much love over the years. But anyway, lastly, we had Sega off to the side announcing yet another update to Virtua Fighter 5, which has gotten about 12 incremental updates parallel, like, here's an exclusive one for the PlayStation 3, and an exclusive one for the Xbox 360, an exclusive one for the PlayStation 4. There's like 5 different exclusive arcade ones. This game has been out since like 2006. It keeps getting fucking updates every now and again, which is great for the Virtua Fighter fans, but it's a little ridiculous at this point. But there's another one coming. And then they also showed off the new Virtua Fighter game. And that was like pretty much all the announcements worth a damn, right? So, after EVO, there's always a hype fall off. Because the entire time, everybody who participates or pretends they're part of the community or makes the community their identity, they have FGC in the bio, and that's basically just their life. They go online and they talk about how much they like fighting games that they've never played before, how much they loved it, and you have people who are 18 years old saying, I've loved the series since the beginning, and the series is 30 years old, and you have all these fucking lunatics just going nuts during the event, even though they're not there, they're not playing it, or if they are there, they're not getting anywhere. There's always a hype fall off after that. But this one was rather steep. And after the hype comes the reality and people reflecting on it, which is how you end up with interactions like the one I mentioned that kicked off this fucking conversation, right? Now, let me just kind of give you like an overview of the life of a player if you're just an average Joe Schmo, right?
Like myself.
Yeah, let's just say you decided tomorrow, was like, Anthony, show me the ropes in Street Fighter. I want to go to my locals. I want to play. And one day I want to go to EVO. And with tears in my eyes, I teach you, and you become the average player. If you are an average player, one that gets suckered into EVO, realistically, your purpose is to do the following. Spend around $3,000 getting there and staying there. Way more if you're flying in from out of the country. You go, you promptly drown in pools. Do you know what that means?
No.
So pools it's like a tournament pool where it's just like before you get your placement in the bracket, you play different play. Yes.
Yeah,
go there.
That makes sense.
Yes, you drown in pools, you go 0-2, that's your tournament. And then you spend the next 3 days essentially paying a premium to play games you could just emulate or pirate at home. If you didn't already own them, which of course you do, because you're not a degenerate thief, you'll spend a lot of time meandering on the show floor, standing in the background while top players and influencers try to relive whatever high point they had in the last 20 years. And you will also find the time to buy shit, typically at an extremely high markup from some of the worst people around. Along the way, you may get sexually assaulted, get your shit stolen, or just generally be ostracized by what is realistically a very clique-heavy and ideologically driven community. And I didn't emphasize it enough, but community has multiple quotes around it. Year over year, there has been less of a reason to go to larger events. There's multiple tournament circuits for each game with different backers, splitting attention and importance. EVO itself has essentially been split into 4 separate EVOs, so each feels less impactful. The quality of player is dropping as the games get easier, the old guys kind of, age out, and as the effects of begging anyone and everyone to play these games starts to get felt with the bad people and the people that really just they don't really know how to play that well, they're just there. Corporate overreach is sanitizing the events, and if all that weren't bad enough, things are getting more expensive. On top of the addition, on top of that, there's the addition of ads so plentiful that they had to cut top 8 finals down to top 6 in recent years. And this year, while they did manage to get top 8 in a lot of places, they did say there's still a chance there might only be a top 6 because of the ad run times. Don't know how you lose control of that, but whatever. The only people enjoying themselves universally at these events are the old heads who are living it up in the house they sold for the privilege to be royalty. Influencers like YouTubers and cosplayers who the entire time will be getting attention or material they will later use after the event for more attention. And overall, there's this culture of just the guys at the top, the legacy players, the corporate sponsors, the personalities who want attention they can turn into unwarranted self-importance or cash flow. These guys are just throttling this community, and it's on full display whenever EVO rolls around. There was a time where things were much better for the average player, like where that guy at the beginning where he said just go offline, go to these events, right? Where it would make sense and things would just be better. Getting into these events was cheaper. Average local scenes, they were healthier. Cultural parasites had no hold in any of these areas. It was just about the game. And as for EVO, there was really a feeling that whether you went or you were just watching, that you were watching matches at the summit, the top of the game, where like the best players went. And it's just not like that anymore. More importantly than all of that, love of the game was at the top. It was the most important. It was always outpacing the community itself and the individual performance of the games. People you got together because you loved to play the game. You weren't playing because some fucking influencer showed it to you, or some cosplayer showed it to you, or there was money on the line. You were just playing the game
as it should be.
As it should be. Now, to circle back to where I started again, the sentiment of it's online only. I would say that's ironic in a way, because during the lockdown years, they were pushing online so heavily, like, don't worry, we're still one community, we're all together, we're playing online now, and then online is just as important as the offline. But now that offline is back and nobody's locked down anymore, online, it all of a sudden it doesn't matter. I guess that's not fair. Most of the people online that are saying this are either ignorant to everything I just laid out, directly benefit from what I just laid out, or are just too big to care about the issues from what I just laid out. These people, like, I think the guy that said this was like some cosplayer. He basically goes to the events and he gets all the attention and all this, that, and the other thing, and then like he does not, like, if you don't jive with what he likes or expects, you're just like you're the real problem at this. And basically all this to say, as far as a temperature check for the community, regardless of whether it's offline or online, is there's this like weird entitlement from like the newer, I guess you could call them top players, but not really, where it used to be mainly with Smash players that would do this, because let me tell you, those guys were fucking nasty when it came to unwarranted self-importance. But it's basically, you'll have players like, they'll be they'll just be like, oh, I got to go play at some smaller tournament to get my points for the larger circuit. And I'm just like, smaller tournaments is how we got here. Arguably, the smaller tournament should be more important because that's where you're spending most of your life. You're leaving your house, you're going like 10 minutes, 15, maybe 30 minutes away to play at the locals. That's how you got into the games optimally, and that's how you started, And there's just this overall, from like all this different stuff, it's just terrible, unwarranted. It's the complete opposite, I guess, is what I'm getting at with all this, with what they say is it's the complete opposite. They always say we're one big family, we love each other, we love the games, but at the end of the day, it's just people arguing with each other, and if you don't agree with them, you're part of the problem. And to kind of, get back to actual facts and not just me ranting about the community, after Evo, Sony sold their stake in it. Like they're out. They're out. They don't own it. They don't own a controlling stake anymore. They're still partnering with it because of the PlayStations. I'm not going to break down the 5 or so companies involved, but it came down to some India-based esports company owning their stakes now. And afterwards, more money changed hands. So now the Saudis essentially have full control over Evo through a company called Kidia, I think it's called. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like QIDDYA or IYA. Because the Saudis have been making moves in esports majorly, especially in fighting games recently. They're doing some kind of image thing, and that's going to be a whole other bubble that pops eventually. But I think they ended up buying out another controlling partner for Evo, and now they basically own the whole fucking thing. And this has the fighting game community in a tizzy because the more diverse types of player of all annoying walks of life have decided that like this influence is just a step too far. Meanwhile, the Saudis are pumping money into it, so like their price pools are going up, and at the same time the Saudis have always been involved, and at the same time all these players, they're only interested in the money. If you wanted to get away from the Saudi influence so fucking badly, you would go back to the grassroots. But guess what? All the medium-sized tournaments are shutting down because the big ones are taking up everything with the big controlled circuits, and you don't give a fuck about your smaller locals anyway. So now you have people saying, I'm not in support of the Saudis. It's absolutely disgusting, as a gay this, as a non-binary that, blah blah blah. I hate this. However, I will be playing in order to protest. And I'm just like, what does that mean? So you're just gonna go on as normal? I guess it really just wasn't that fucking important to you anyway. And I guess all this, that's all to say is the fighting game is continuing to decline, and there's everything about it is bad except for maybe Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, but like the people involved are just, they're dreadful. They're worse as the tournaments get bigger and the middle gets squeezed out and the grassroots is kind of getting left behind. The more vocal and I don't want to say powerful, but like they kind of have the community device, the cultural vandals and parasites that are in these communities are being obnoxious and making things worse for everybody. And it's just, it's a bubble waiting to burst with the money, because the Saudis aren't always going to be pouring money into it, and with all the cultural stuff going on, it's I don't know what happens in a soft topic like this, because rolling into the next thing, the last thing we'll be talking about today, and something you almost touched on, is I'm sure and this will tie together. I'll explain. It may seem like I'm kind of segueing out of but it'll come down to it again. As you know, Dan, there was an event recently. Yeah, and you kind of led up to it a little bit with your own thing, but I'll lead up to it in my own way too.
Okay.
I thought on how to really talk about this, because this podcast is about games, the industry, the people in it. But it's important to talk about the fallout of events in the world occasionally, as it has effects and pertains to the culture of, well, everything. But for our purposes, the industry. And there's actually a rule I had been brewing up ever since I started preliminary work on a series I'm going to eventually do for Guilty Gear. And in short, if it's tied too close to the topic, you should just fucking mention it. We're not going to censor ourselves here or anything, right? So I'm not going to report on it or go nuts, because that's not what we do here, but we need to lay it out for full context, and we'll talk about, like, I heard you were going to lead into some things, but I'll also lead into it, and we can just go back and forth until our throats hurt, and then you have to leave, right? So, On September 10th, 2025, activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed on live on air when he was answering questions on a college campus. Everything else, motives, suspects, affiliations, leanings, we're not here to discuss. You either know the guy or you didn't. You were either following the story or you aren't. But a guy was shot for his opinions while speaking on a college campus, and that sets the stage.
Yep.
I have a feeling that had he survived, we would probably end up talking about him at some point anyway, because while I didn't really watch him, much like I really don't fucking watch anybody, you know me, he was absolutely going places in his sphere, and with all due respect for the dead, he had a very antiquated position on video games, entertainment mediums, and hobbies in general. He was very much the you will wake up, work, and repeat until you die, only stopping to do family stuff kind of traditionalist. So he was going to come up on this eventually. He'd have a problem with you in particular because you still spend money on video games after having children, and that was something he was not too keen on. But now, why I bring this up? There's one small reason and one major reason. With the major reason, you'll probably have more to say. The first smaller reason, I'll just get this out of the way, it's kind of unrelated to everything else. You were going to have more than a few people blame this on violent video games, which is obviously asinine. It was already happening before
and also proven to be factually false time and time again.
Yeah, but I bring this up again because people are going to mention this. It was already brewing before he was killed. But we've been seeing the sentiment make a comeback, and now that one of the bullets that the killer had allegedly has a Helldivers 2 stratagem input engraved on it, there are going to be a few unnecessary...
Oh, does it? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. I mean, it could just be a random assortment of arrows, but everybody seems pretty sure it's like a stratagem input.
Wait, but you don't know. We don't know what stratagem it was. Like, obviously,
well, it was. What was it?
I feel like there's significance to that.
Up, right, down, down, down. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it
was up, right, down, down, down.
I think it ended in down, down, down.
If it was a triple down, that's the 500 kg bomb.
Okay, so it was, but the case in point is, regardless of, right now, that's what everybody's running with, is that it was a stratagem input from Helldivers 2. And so overall, there's going to be a few unnecessary shots taken at games just because that's what people do occasionally, and that's just a traditionalist thing that, obviously there was a lot going on with that in the 90s, and it's kind of making a comeback now, but I don't think it's going to come back as strong. Just remain vigilant with those kind of things. But the major reason that I bring it up is that there was a big swell of people coming out and celebrating this event, and a lot of those people are from our lovely, lovely first up to be culturally captured industry. Yep. Now,
and let me just stop you for a second. And I feel it's very important to at least say out loud that you are more than welcome to have whatever belief you want. That is the beauty of this country. We were founded on freedom of speech. Is that there's a reason why it's the first fucking amendment in our Constitution. Yep. But just because you can say whatever you want does not make it ethically, morally, or factually correct. And the people that are celebrating his death are, I mean, I'm not going to turn this political or go off the deep end too much. Yeah. But I think you're fucking evil, and I don't care what side of the aisle that you're on, and I'm not going to disclose what side of the aisle I'm on, but I mean, the guy was murdered in cold blood in front of his wife and 2 young daughters, and fuck you, like you're evil. Like, there's no other way to put it in my mind. That's my feelings on it. But anyway, continue. I will bring up what I was going to bring up before. That's
it's important to say that, because like you said, regardless of the aisle, if he was still alive, I would probably end up disagreeing with him more than I agree on him. Just because, like, that alone, like I said, the few times I heard from him, it was because of his batshit takes on how men in general should handle their entertainment mediums. But it's just like, I don't want to see people die because they have stupid opinions on video games or different opinions than me culturally. Like, you would need to be a certain degree of evil and criminal for me to even consider that, and even then I wouldn't take glee from it. Like, the most you could get from me is something like, why did this have to happen in the first place? If like somebody who was opposed to me on like some kind of level, be it extreme or be it, like I would never, like I don't jump for joy over these things. And there are people that do that, and this really brings us back to the only reason we're bringing it up here on this gaming podcast is because we could talk all day about, you know, useful idiots or cultural cowards or people who say they're partisan but will go with whatever position happens to be in power. Like there's going to be a lot of that when culture swings a certain way when it comes to creative freedoms and all the things I've been talking about. You're going to have a lot of people who are either silent or telling you that you should just sit down and shut up over it, all of a sudden sitting behind you saying, yeah, I agree with what you say. But I'm mainly talking about all the people you listed, which are, you know, the bad, downright evil people. The people who, you know, are hateful. Because the reason that is because it was something I had always assumed to a certain degree, but it was really confirmed in the days following his murder that there are a lot of people in the industry, be it from the creative standpoint or from the community standpoint, that cheered this on. And it was always something like I always knew that like they would hate you for disagreeing with them, and they would very much be happy if you're dead. But it was definitely a fully mask off. It's
moment. A different thing when it actually happens, and that reaction takes place from certain people. It's a different thing. It hits differently. It feels different. Like it just it's one thing to talk about it, but when it actually happens, and in the manner that it did, and in front of the entire world, and his family was right there. I know I keep on harping on that fact, but like. That's the worst thing that I could even imagine. Yeah, you know, for you to be celebrating that and like jumping for joy and having glee, like you said. Yeah. It just what are you doing with your life? Like where are you mentally?
Because like my hope in this situation, like that built to this moment, I was saying before we got to the point where people were cheering this on, is like the what is just and correct, be it in like in this factors into what I've said week after week of like what is right in the culture, what is best for everybody just comes along, and these people who have like lost their minds and like spent 10 years ruining everything would just kind of go like, oh, well, I'm not in danger and life seems good, maybe I can just go back to normal, you know. But it was a very big mask off moment for the industry, and I mean like part of what I have to say, like all kinds of developers and employees from throughout the industry. You have sound engineers from Bungie, artists from Sucker Punch and the Coalition, producers from Wizards of the Coast and Bethesda, voice actors with Arc System Works, localizers at Square Enix, executives at Epic Games, pretty much every position at Blizzard, because that whole company's a cesspool. And we're talking senior employees here, you know, not in tenure, but alleged experience. You also have entire indie studios, event organizers and employees from MagFest and PAX and South by Southwest. And it's just like throughout the entire industry down to the communities. Because like a lot of the shit I was talking about in the fighting game community and the Smash community, prominent players there are doing the same exact fucking thing. And I guess what it is to remind you of all this is like, for weeks and months, I've been harping to you and Joe and whoever else will listen about the cultural aspect of like creation and how, you know, there's kind of been this throttle and vandalism and parasitical nature of these people destroying things. Most of those people let the mask slip this week, where those same people, it's not just a matter of a difference in opinion. They want to destroy the things you love, and if you get in the way, they would be more than happy to see you dead. And I'm just like, I guess at the end of this is I'm just telling people out there, it's just like, you got to keep an eye on these people. They need to go. They can't, like, they've already stolen these positions. They're not worth, like, they're not unique or special. They're just occupying, you know, positions made by massive legacies and people that came before, and all they've done is make threats and make things worse for everybody else. Like there's a lot of overlap. Yep. I'm not saying I'm not saying everybody that ruins a video game is also wants to see you dead, but there's a huge overlap there, and there's a problem in this industry and a lot of industries that we're just going to have to contend with. And I do think that this has been, you know, a turning point or a tipping point where we're going to see these people are going to be ousted, because I think more than a few people have already been fired, and more than a few people have realized that they've gone off the deep end and are starting to bunker down. But we're going to have to contend with the people who are true believers in this and have been pushing it, and not just the gaggle of idiots and people that surrounded them. So it's just we really learned, it's a sad experience, it's a sad thing, it's a tragedy, but we also learned a lot about our industry and the problems in it and where they come from.
I mean, when I saw that, certain developers from Bungie were tweeting about this, I was fucking disgusted. I mean, like, I knew that Bungie was very woke and everything, but it's another thing to see the developers of a game that I do love Destiny, as you know. I mean, it's not great right now, but if it got better, then, great. But to see these people celebrating this, it absolutely disgusted me, to the point where, like, I have no interest in playing their fucking game. I have less than no interest, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see some kind of course correction, because a lot of these people, they offer nothing, and they just make things worse. Like, you're talking about, like, the people who are in that position, that unwarranted position, working on a game that you love so much. But there are also people out there that are just leeching their way into everything else, and they hate you, and they hate everything that you love, and they want to make things worse for you. And if you get in their way, they want only the worst for you. And it's just it's a cultural reckoning across industries and across everything out there. But so don't I guess the reason we mainly brought this up is because it's like, keep your head on a swivel.
Shed a lot of light on on our industry.
Yeah, you really, like, we knew things were bad, but now it's like, if you take a look under the hood,
confronted with it.
Yeah, exactly, because they as this culture works its way out and is ousted, a lot of these people are going to feel threatened, and the ones that are around the ones feeling threatened are going to feel emboldened and feel like they're in the right one last time before it's all over.
Yep.
So,
not to end on a dour note, but
I mean, we said everything we needed to say.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It really is, and it's, like you said, it's a tragedy. It's just very sad. But we got to wrap this up. If you're still listening, then thank you very much. This was episode 71 of the Pregame Network podcast, and be back next week.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.